All right, you are listening to the Hockey Cards Gongshow Podcast. My name is Josh. I am here with Troy. It is Sunday afternoon in the beautiful Twin Cities area of Minnesota. What's going on, Troy?
Not a whole lot, just getting ready for Toronto.
Yeah, the Expo is coming up this week. Very excited about that. We'll be leaving early Thursday morning. Haven't discussed that, but I'm guessing it'll be well before the rooster crows, as they say, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing if we left, I don't know what time, but yeah, it's going to be early, like really early, like stupid early.
Does a rooster crow?
I can't. Maybe. Yeah, they're the males, right? They make all the noise.
Yeah, okay. It is November. Hockey in all levels is ramping up, so lots going on and definitely lots to talk about today. Do want to make a note, though, Troy, before we start, just to mention Hockey Cards 101, lest anyone forgets that is a thing. We haven't forgotten, that's for sure. For anyone that's waiting for the next episode, we apologize. It has not come out sooner, but in all honesty, we have been adjusting to moving the Gong Show from one episode per week to two, and we're kind of just trying to get that process nailed down. But hopefully this month, we'll figure out a way to squeeze in the next Hockey Cards 101. Still very excited about that series. Also need to mention before we get started that the Hockey Cards Gongshow Podcast is a Patreon podcast, right? I'm not sure if you were aware of that. It enables us to keep our show going, cover expenses, continue to produce more and better hockey card content, and help us fund initiatives around the hockey card hobby to grow the hobby. Right now, if you go onto Patreon, search for the Hockey Cards Gongshow Podcast, or click on the link in the description of whatever podcast app you're listening to us on now, or via the profile in our Instagram, you can join the Out of 99 tier and be one of the first and ever 99 supporters of the Gong Show Podcast, get exclusive access to our Discord, give us input into the show, ask our interviewees questions, lots of other cool stuff, and just join our kind of growing and amazing community. That's been a lot of fun. Since last episode, we've got a couple of new patrons and members of the 99 Club. So Slapshot Collectibles, Jadon, thank you very much. We appreciate your support from the bottom of our hearts. Okay, Troy, let's go with the game plan.
On today's show, we begin with a look at the greatest player to wear number 29. Next, it is on to our movers and shakers, while also taking a stop to see who is on the struggle bus. This is followed by a rookie deep dive on John-Jason Peterka. We then look at some recent hobby news, followed by a discussion on sealed wax and if storing sealed hockey wax is a good investment. And we wrap up the show with new product releases and our personal pickups and or sales. All right, so let's go. We are on episode 29. And now for our most famous player to wear number 29 per the Hockey Writers article. It is our first goalie, I believe, Ken Dryden.
I assume we're going to have a number of goalies coming up.
I would assume so, too. We're going to get the run on goalies now with the 29, the 30s, the 31s, the 32s. Yeah. Used to be, I think goalies were assigned, kind of like football players used to be assigned a certain range of numbers. I think they got rid of that. Now you can basically wear whatever you want. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we're going to have a run on. And Josh, just to let you know, in the honorable mentions for number 29 was your favorite Wild player, Jason Pominville.
Oh, Palmer.
Yeah.
You see, you're not supposed to give away honorable mentions.
I know, but it's another 100 and some episodes to get back to 129. So, or it'll be 100 episodes to get to 129. So,
wait. Hold on a minute. I like Pominville. I mean, he was okay. He honestly was listed as one of the best players to ever wear number 29.
He was on the honorable mentions list. Let me make sure.
Again, no offense to Palmer there, but that's a little surprising, isn't it?
Yeah, the two others, man. We I won't say them. Well, I will say them because it's going to be so long before we get back. The runners-up were Fleury, who might actually overtake if his career keeps going this way because this article is old. It's like a year or two old. Pominville and Nathan McKinnon were the honorable mentions.
Oh, yeah. So Pominville is like on a whole other tier lower than the rest of those guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he must have some fans over at the Hockey Cards. But anyways, okay, number 29, Ken Dryden, goalie. played. Here's some interesting stuff about him. I know we kind of mentioned him in the goalie stuff when we did the Mount Rushmores, and I don't think he made it. And one of my things was he didn't play that long, but his career is absolutely fascinating. 397 regular season games over an 8-year NHL career. Played all 8 years with the Montreal Canadiens. So looking at his accomplishments, he's in the Hall of Fame. He's a 6-time Stanley Cup winner. He was the 1971-72 Calder Trophy winner for Rookie of the Year. I'm going to say the next one and just let your brain process it, but I'll come back to it. He was the 1970-71 Conn Smythe winner. So remember the previous one, he was the 71-72 Calder Trophy. My next accomplishment or award, he was the 70-71 Conn Smythe winner.
So he started his career in the playoffs, essentially?
Almost. We'll get to it.
All right.
He's a 5-time Vezina Trophy winner. So he played 8 years, won the Vezina 5 times. 7-time All-Star, played collegiately at Cornell, and his jersey number 29, is retired by Montreal. So for Dryden, he had a career regular season record of 258 wins, 57 losses, 74 ties. That percentage puts him, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's in like 78% winning percentage. You do the math, you figure it out. It's pretty high. Career goals against average is 2.24, which puts him 8th all-time for goalies. His career save percentage is .922, which puts him 3rd all-time for goalies. He also had 46 career shutouts in the regular season, which puts him at 34th all-time. But considering his regular season career was over 8 years, 46 shutouts and 34th all-time is pretty big. Made the playoffs in all 8 of his NHL seasons. 112 games played, record of 80 wins, 32 losses. He had a 2.41 goals against average and a .915 save percentage. And he managed 10 career playoff shutouts, which puts him at 11th all-time. So now let's get back to his start of his career. He had a very unusual start to his career. He ended up being called up to Montreal at the tail end of the 70-71 season. He played in 6 regular season games for Montreal, and he went 6-0 with a 1.65 goals against average and a .957 save percentage. So he gets called up, he comes in, he plays fantastic, and what any good hockey coach would do, I'm going to ride the wave, and he is named the starter for the playoffs that season.
Oh, geez.
So they go right into the playoffs, and he is named the starter for the 71 NHL playoffs for the Canadiens. And I put kind of my notes, and the rest is kind of history. He led the Montreal Canadiens to the Stanley Cup championship and won the Conn Smythe, which is the playoff MVP trophy, in the process of that first year. So now I put, it's one of his fun facts. He's got a couple fun facts, but now one of them I'm putting right in here. He won a Stanley Cup and a Conn Smythe trophy before ever losing a regular season NHL game.
Oh, man. That is fascinating.
That is a really cool stat. Dryden, from a perspective of how he played, he was huge for the time. He was 6'4". If you ever look at goalies back in this age, height wasn't the big thing that it is now. You had little guys, the quickness was the big thing they thought about. But he was kind of a freak in that era where he's 6'4", big guy. Phil Esposito from the Bruins called him a bleeping giraffe in the net, or a thieving giraffe in the net, whichever source you read, which is kind of funny to me. He was also known for being very cerebral, thinking about the game, and technically gifted goalie. In some interviews, he talks about his role as a goalie was to let the team know that things are taken care of in the net, and they have the freedom to be creative, to be offensive, and go score goals. He'll take care of the net and not let the pucks in, but they get to go do whatever they need to do to score. It's kind of interesting how he thought about that back in the 70s. You don't really hear that come out from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
In the offseason, he did not just sit around. He actually studied to get his law degree. He was going to be a lawyer. After the 72-73 season, so it was after his 3rd year in the NHL, he took a look at his stats, took a look at his salary and his contract, and said, I am very underpaid for what I do. Told Montreal management he would like a raise. They did not agree, so he retired. Retired after his 3rd year, turned in his jersey, and he's done. So he did not play at all during the 73-74 season. And the Canadiens went ahead and had a pretty good year, but lost in the first round of the playoffs that year. Next season, they decided that maybe they should bring Dryden back, and they re-signed him to a new contract. So I think the playoff getting eliminated in the first round kind of hurt them. So they brought him back after that season, and he played 5 more years. After his playing career, he did a lot of things. He wrote books. He worked as a commentator. He did some executive work, I believe, for the Maple Leafs, and he taught classes at McGill University. So very interesting life, very smart guy. A lot of stuff you read about him is just how well-versed he is in a lot of stuff. You know, he got into a career in politics as well. So
did it say why he retired so early?
I don't think it was injuries or anything. I think he just wanted to do other things, and he had a great career. He's in the Hall of Fame, and he said, I'm good. Like, I've won enough cups, and I want to do more with my life. I didn't see anything that said it was injuries. I could be wrong. Maybe there is something in there that I missed, but that's what I found. So to look at, we had the one fun fact about him. I got a couple others. His brother was a goalie for the Boston Bruins. I think it was Dave Dryden. I forgot to write it down. But when Ken Dryden entered a March 20th, 1971 game, when their starting goalie got injured for the Canadiens, and this was a stat as of 2021. I haven't been able to verify if it's happened since. I don't think it has. It's the first and only time a pair of brothers have played against each other as goalies in an NHL game.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty neat. And then the second fun fact about him, obviously, I mentioned he was tall, 6'4". And if you've ever seen the iconic picture of Ken Dryden, it's him standing and kind of having his stick straight up, and he's leaning on it with his blocker and glove. And they kind of got the nickname the 4-story goalie. But that pose is exactly the same pose that George Vezina is popular for. He did kind of the same thing, 60 years prior to Dryden. So it's kind of cool how iconic and it kind of matches what Vezina did during his career with the same kind of look. So again, fascinating short career, but Hall of Fame career for sure. All right. Looking at his cards, obviously he was a 71-72 rookie. For his card, it was an OPC number 45, and there's also a Topps version of this. The PSA 10, obviously you're going to know this, the Pop's super low, 11. However, there were some sales within the last couple of years. One sold at Heritage for $19,800 in December of 2020. And then previously before that, one sold with PWCC in March of 2020 for $8,700. So a huge jump between, but that's when the market's doing the run-up. It could have been one of them looked a little better than the other. There's nothing I really saw. I tried to look at the picture and card letter to see what.
I think that would do more than 20,000 today, don't you?
Oh, for sure.
If one went up for sale.
Yep, I definitely believe so. That Pop 11 is so low, and it's a cool card. If you ever look it up, it's so cool. He's like in the goalie pose. He's got the mask that he's known for. PSA 9 version of the OPC has a Pop of 62. That one had a sale of March 2022 for $4,755 US on eBay. There was no BGS sales comparable. I couldn't find any, but the Pops on those are so stinking low. A 9.5, the Pop is 2, and the BGS 9 is a Pop of 6 of that OPG. And then at the Topps version, obviously you're going to see a little lower in value. The 71-72, I couldn't find any PSA 10 sales, but I did find some PSA 9s. And there was a June 2022 sale for $854. And then before that, there was a PWCC on May 29th, 2022 for $990. So the eBay
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Under $1,000 compared to almost $5,000.
Well, now I have another target that I'm thinking about at the expo to see if I can find. And let me just doing the dumb thing and telling everyone, but I wouldn't mind trying to find this card. I would be fine with the Topps version. I think the OPG, unless I get a deal, that one, or drop down in grade, obviously might be a little out of my range maybe, but awesome card. Cool to look at the values. It's definitely attainable, though. I mean, if you drop to the Topps version, obviously the OPG is a little more rare, but the PSA 8 version of that OPG version, there's 187 Pop, and they sell on eBay they're pretty regular. Last one was 1,825 on October 19th, 2022.
That's pretty good hobby value, actually, for him. Like, you can see that there's a lot of respect given where for some of these guys, you kind of scratch your head a little bit at the values, and you're like, man, is this all this dude goes for? But I think that that's pretty legit for Mr. Dryden there. All right, well, cool. Well, I guess sorry, all you Pominville fans. Looks like Ken Dryden is number 29 and we'll look at, I would have to imagine it'll be another goalie on Wednesday, because 30 is pretty much a goalie number, but we'll find out.
I'll give you a hint. It is going to be a goalie run coming up. There's going to be a lot of goalies.
This is it's like your Christmas
my time to shine. Let's do this.
You love goalies. All right, we're going to move on to movers and shakers, and we're going to start with a goalie and who's hot. So Troy, as our resident goalie expert, is going to keep rolling and cover our first guy for us.
All right, who's hot? Linus Ullmark. I think we owe him a big apology for not putting him on the Who's Hot a lot earlier. He has been absolutely fantastic. So
You're saying he's good looking or something, or what?
No.
Oh, we're talking about hockey play. Okay.
Yeah, hockey hotness. How he's playing. So definitely apologies to him. He is.
Wait, so you're saying he's good looking for a hockey player,
or he's good looking dude?
Playing,
good looking dude.
Okay, good looking dude.
He's currently 8-1-0. So 8 wins, leads the league. He has a 2.16 goals against average, which is 8th in the league, and a .929 save percentage, which is also 8th. He has 1 shutout. He suffered actually his first defeat of the year last night against Toronto. He has, I threw this stat in there. It's not one you hear a lot of people kind of mention, but it's interesting. There's a stat called quality starts. It was developed by Rob Volman at the Hockey Abstract, and he just tried to figure out some way to say, hey, a goalie played a game. Was it a quality start or was it garbage?
It's kind of like a pitcher in baseball, right?
Yeah.
How they do quality starts. Yeah.
And it's not very complicated. All it is, I'll give the definition since this is the first time we brought it up. He starts with the save percentage for the game has to be greater than the average save percentage for the year, or at least 88.5% on nights with 20 or fewer shots. That's all it is. That's how basic it is. But he's had 7 quality starts so far. I believe he started, I got to remember this. I didn't write this down. I think he started 9 or 10 games. I know he got pulled in one, which will come up when we talk about another Boston goalie in a little bit. So Ullmark has been on absolute fire and kind of cemented himself as the number 1 starter for now. Looking at his values, his rookie card is the 15-16 Young Guns, number 472. Obviously, low pops on all these. Maybe they'll see a little spike, but he's also an older goalie. His PSA 10 has a pop 11. But there have been some sales. There was an eBay buy it now on October 27th of this year for $231 US. And before that, there was an August 17th, 22 sale on eBay for $100 US. So it's definitely popped up a little there.
Do you think that hockey card collectors knew that there was grading like 6-7 years ago, or?
I don't know. And on some of those too, I always go to BGS because I always think maybe BGS is where they send everything, and it's no. Just seems like it wasn't. But who back then in 15-16 was like Linus Ullmark? He's in a Sabres jersey. Let me go send this one in and see what it does. I don't know. Maybe wasn't one of those guys that popped out.
Sure.
But anyways, his PSA 9. There's been a couple odd sales. One, there's been 2 on October 30th. One was for $20. One was for $70 US. So one of those maybe is a little goofy. Maybe that $70 one. I don't know. Just seems something was going on there. And then raw, he's one of those guys you talk about. His raw sales at the beginning of the year, around September-ish, early October, was in that $1 to $5 range. Now they're going 10 to 15 to 20, somewhere in there, depending on the card.
Well, I don't think anyone assumed he was going to be the goalie.
Nope.
And we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so a couple more guys to cover in our Who's Hot segment this week of Movers and Shakers. Next guy we wanted to touch on real briefly is a gentleman named Cole Caufield. Troy, you ever hear of him?
I have heard of him. He's a very good, very fast, tiny little hockey player.
Nice. Oh, like Elf on the Shelf, hockey player on the shelf kind of guy. It's nice to see, obviously, one of the top 2021 rookies off to a great start. Through 12 games, he has 14 points, 8 goals, 6 assists. It's obviously over 1 point per game so far. Last year, he had 43 points with 23 goals and 20 assists in 67 games. So he's pacing well ahead of that at this point of the season. Also, Troy, I think given he's playing on the Habs top line with Suzuki and Kirby Dach, And on the top power play unit, he should have plenty of scoring opportunities throughout the remainder of the season. To me, right now, he looks like he's the real deal, for sure.
Yeah, he is. I've watched him because in college, if I remember right, correct if you don't remember, I think he played at Wisconsin.
Ooh.
Is that where he played?
Really?
Is that where?
Oh, man. Better dead than red if you're from Minnesota, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that one up. I just want to make sure I'm seeing that right. But I remember him in his college career, he's a little guy, but he is fast and he is good. I know he's from Wisconsin. I know I got that much right. Pretty sure he played at Wisconsin.
Well, despite that, he's doing very, very well, and it shows you how he deals with adversity. Okay, hockey card perspective. Pricing for his 2021 Young Gun PSA 10 Pop 584 is pretty interesting right now, Troy. I haven't run into this yet. So auctions on eBay seem to be closing in the $325 to $400 US range, while buy it nows are selling for more in this $475 or $475 to $500 US range. Moral of the story is bid in auctions. If you're looking for one as of right now, you might be able to save a little bit there. What also I think is a good sign, a very, very good sign for the hobby, is last sale of his 2021 Young Guns Raw was today, Sunday. Best offer accepted, $104 US. And it seems like it's been selling in the 85, 105 range for the past few days. So we have a 2021 Raw Young Gun back over 100, Troy.
That's good. I think I sold mine, I want to say it was 2 or 3 months ago. And it was at the $100 range too, I think. I'd have to look it up, but that seems about right. But that's interesting.
I feel like he dipped almost down to like 60, 70, didn't he?
Let me look it up.
I think you're just bragging. We know you're the greatest seller ever, Troy. You know that.
Yeah,
constantly remind us.
Yeah, I'm number one seller.
We sell something for 50, you sell it for 100 just because it's you. We all get it. All right, well, we're going to move on, and we'll circle back to Caufield. So the next thing I want to talk to is, I think, probably the most fascinating person for this episode, certainly, and almost since we started this, it's Bo Horvat, your guy, Troy, from the Nucks. He is definitely on a goal-scoring tear right now. So through 12 games, he's got 14 points, 10 goals, 4 assists. The 9-year pro did have a career-high 31 goals last season in 71 games, so he's definitely pacing to beat that. What's kind of crazy about this, though, is so he's 27 years old, and the captain, right, of Vancouver, he's in the final year of his contract, and there's a whole heck of a lot of steam about them trading him. So how bad does it get for your hockey club when you're trading your captain who's 27 and your leading goal scorer? That's never a good sign, huh?
That is never a good sign. Holy cow. I didn't realize that. That's pretty nuts.
I saw a lot of articles like, here's what it would take for Detroit to get Bo Horvat, that sort of stuff. So I think if he continues to play well and he does end up getting traded, especially to a contender, that could be a recipe for some interesting hobby stuff to happen to his cards. Definitely one to watch. Right now, his 2014 Young Gun PSA 10 Pop 88, again, really small. Last sold for $226 US on September 5th. These are so low pop. There hasn't, September 5th a while ago now. So I don't know what you can learn from that. I assume it'll be more if one sells now because he's playing so well. If you look at his 2014 Young Guns Raw, they've been selling in the $65 US range. You find out anything on Caufield? You look like you're...
I'm looking deep. I'm trying to find... Now I can't find it, of course, so maybe I never sold it. Maybe it's just...
Oh, maybe you're making up sales.
No, I sold it, but I
think you sold it last spring. I really do. Okay, well, we need to move on to... Oh, man, there it is. Finally, the struggle bus pulls up. All right, Troy, come on. Let's hop on and see who's there.
All right, who's on the bus, baby? Do you need me to start? I got one.
Okay. You see someone?
I do. First guy I see, and we kind of mentioned him. I hinted at him. I didn't mention him.
You hinted at him.
That's hinted correct. At him. So, there he is. Jeremy Swayman has been added to the struggle bus. He jumped on.
Is this controversial?
I don't think it's controversial.
Okay.
Let's just think about him. He had a fantastic rookie season last year, finished fifth in the Calder Trophy voting. However, he has had a very rough start to 22-23. Ullmark.
The other thing, though, is that his Young Guns was smoking hot for a long time last year, like big money on places like eBay.
Is this where I jump in and say I sold one and try to name a price and then can't verify it?
Well, why not? Everyone knows that your ego is out of control.
I just sit here and make up prices. No, I know I sold one.
I sold one for $11,000.
It was great.
You got 62.
So you start this year. Ullmark obviously named the starter and has kind of cemented himself as the starter. Swayman is 2-1 this year. So 2 wins, 1 loss, 0 ties, a 3.45 goals against, and an .878 save percentage. However, so a bad season just got worse. He was injured on November 1st in a game against Pittsburgh, and I kind of hinted this too. Ullmark actually started that game and got pulled after 5 goals. So they bring in Swayman, and of course he gets injured. And then to cap it off, yesterday he was placed on injured reserve. So that basically means he's out for weeks, not days. So it's
not
kind of
great news for his hockey cards.
No,
well, can we circle back just a second to and I'm going off of memory here, not off of research. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I know that Boston has a new coach this year. I forget what his name is. And it must have been a fairly controversial, I don't know if controversial, but kind of a Stonesy move to start Ullmark as your top goalie and not your kind of prized rookie guy.
Maybe, but these coaches, they see so much in practice, and if it just jumped out that Ullmark is playing better in practice, I'm going with the guy I think I have more trust in, even though I have this young stud. Goalie is very, what have you done for me lately? Like even Onger, I mean, for how great he was last year, he's obviously done well this year, but they had someone in the wings that just looked awesome in practice. They would start him. I mean, goalies are that's why their values and collecting goalies is kind of a tough deal, because they're just like one game away from being yanked and then never seeing the ice again. And
he's still very, very young too, right?
That's the key with Swayman. Very young still. So even though he's kind of had, this year's been a disaster, not a disaster. Well, it kind of is a disaster. Started out, didn't get the starting job, has played subpar, and now he's on injured reserve. All those have kind of, I don't know what you want to say, combined to have a rough start and have him jump on the struggle bus. Now, from his hockey card perspective, I just looked up his PSA 10. It's Pop 160. He had lots of population out there for being a newer card, so I figured I could find some good sales numbers. On eBay, I found the last sale November 2nd for $140 US. And the beginning of September, that PSA 10 was around 150-ish. It hasn't moved very much. I don't know what happens with the news of the injured reserve. I didn't see any sales after that announcement, but he's still young. I think he's still got the hype. I don't see it going down drastically. It might take a little hit, but nothing.
Sure.
I still think he's got that. He's the goalie of the future. Ullmark is definitely older, like approaching 30-ish. And they've kind of said Swayman is their guy of the future. So I think he's okay from that perspective. But obviously a rough start. Got on the struggle bus. Hopefully he can get off after the injury.
Yeah, you can kind of read that as they'll continue to ride Ullmark until they have to pay him.
Yep.
And then they'll go.
Well, he gets paid. Cheaper. I mean, he's making $5 million a year. So he does get paid, but obviously.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, next guy on the struggle bus. Another youngster. Alexander Holtz. This one I hemmed and hawed on a little bit, but I think he does deserve to be there. So there's a fair amount of hype around the 2020 number 7 overall pick coming into the season. He had a really great preseason too, which I think kind of helped stoke the flames there a little bit. At the time of when 2021 Upper Deck Extended Series was released, Troy, his Young Guns was definitely one of the chases. They were marketing him and Turcotte, even I think more than Seth Jarvis. Through only 4 games played, though, so he's only been on the ice 4 times this season, Holtz has a mere 1 point with a lone goal. The thought, too, was that he'd get more opportunity when, how do you say this guy's name? Is it Andrej Palat?
I think so. That sounds right to me. Someone will make sure to tell us that we're wrong, but that's how I think it is.
Please do. I should have looked it up. Him being out with injury, but it looks like he's behind Jesper Bovqvist and Fabian Zetterlund in the pecking order there. When he is playing Troy, he's getting around 10 minutes of ice time, so not bad, but he's only averaging 1.6 shots per 60 minutes which is the lowest on the Devils, so that's not great. He hasn't played since October 25th. I'm not sure why they wouldn't send him to the AHL. You think keeping a young guy like that in the press box doesn't do him a lot of good? And from everything I'm reading, it just seems like he's not ready. So I think if you're a Holtz fan or a collector, you want to get in early. This is a guy you're going to have to be patient with. And you can also read that as it's probably a good time to buy still. From a hockey card perspective, I thought this was kind of interesting, Troy. His 2021 Young Gun Raw is still selling in the $11 to $12 range. So I think that speaks to what people think of his potential, even though he's not getting much of an opportunity right now, and definitely not what people thought he was going to get prior to the start of the season, and especially coming out of training camp. Okay, now we got to move on to a vet here. Definitely time to put Jonathan Huberdeau on the struggle bus, Troy. He has 5 points in 10 games with 1 goal and 4 assists, so that's a half a point per game. Last season, of course, he had 115 points in 80 games with 30 goals and 85 assists. So 115 points last season. Right now, his pace is 40 points. Not great. By the way, the guy they traded for him, Matthew Tkachuk, has 17 points in 12 games, 5 goals, 12 assists. Kind of feels like what Huberdeau's numbers should be.
Exactly. That was going to be my one question on what's Tkachuk doing, because they were the big pieces of that trade, and that's interesting to see. And we thought Huberdeau was going to come in and just explode with this new team. Hasn't been the case. I did
too, and if you read about it, it sounds like Suter's scheme is quite a bit different than Florida. I was reading words like dump and chase. And so it's a totally different structure, and I think Huberdeau is needing to adjust to it. Right now, though, the Flames sit in 5th in the Pacific Division, so they're definitely counting on him to start producing more as with others. But yeah, not
has Sutter mentioned anything about him in like press interviews or anything? Because he's old school. Sutter will not hold back if he thinks you stink.
Okay, I got to say something funny that I saw. I wasn't going to mention this, but I don't know. I know this is a family show, so I'll word this carefully. And only because you mentioned how old school Sutter is. At some point in a game, I believe it was last week, in like the second period, Huberdeau left the bench and went to the locker room. And so, of course, he was asked about it. And what does Sutter do? He says he basically told the reporter that he had to take a dump. Instead of like most... any other coach would have probably said anything, right? Like he needed some ibuprofen or something like that.
Or something. Something was wrong with his elbow pad or something. Who knows?
Yeah, so there you go. That's what you get with Sutter, I guess, as real as it gets. His cards have taken a little bit of a hit, Troy, which I guess you'd expect. So his 2013 Young Gun PSA 10 popped 420. Last sale was $148 US dollars. This is the lowest it's been since January 2021. And over the past month, it's down about 36%. So if you still believe in Huberdeau and that he'll figure it out, and he's a great player, I'm sure he will, it could be a good time to buy. But I don't know. I guess the flip side of that is, will he ever mesh in Sutter's system?
Yeah.
And, well, the other thing I'll mention, too, is they talked about, like, well, why is Kadri doing better? And they said that Kadri had played before in a system that is very similar to what Sutter does. So, Sutter, I don't know.
Yeah, it's listen, we had to deal with Ryan Suter for so long that Suter just comes out of our mouths. I know, and so don't email us on that one and tell us how we don't got his name right. Now, I know people have been worried this whole episode. I have found the Caufield sale. I sold my Young Guns. You're right. It was spring. It was April of 2022. $95 was the sale price. But lo and behold, I forgot I sold another one for $85. So a $95 and an $85 sale.
Oh, there. Now you're bragging how many Caufields you have. This just keeps getting so much better, Troy.
Mystery solved.
And I apologize that this came in so late, Troy. I didn't get it in the show notes, but we did have actually one more nomination for the Struggle Bus.
Oh.
This comes from Gongshow Discord user 419 Sports Guy. he's suggesting Troy from the Hockey Cards Gongshow Podcast join the struggle bus based on his recent interview performances. So through 29 podcasts, Troy has averaged a paltry 1.78 questions per interview. There's been a lot of hype around Troy. Many have actually considered him an interview prodigy for years. We look back, and here's what his 7th grade English teacher, Mrs. Withersby, had to say. So here's a quote from Troy's middle school English teacher. No one could give an oral book report like Troy. We knew even at an early age he was special. His review of Hatchet has been legendary for 30 years at Richfield Middle School. It is really surprising since Troy is considered one of the strongest interviewers in this year's crop of rookie hockey card podcasters. I went back and looked at the scouting report on Troy from Hockey Cards Media Daily. And here's what they had to say. Nimble, quick to respond, offers excellent analysis, especially related to goalie discussion, can mix up Nikita Kucherov as a defenseman at times, but makes up for it in his enthusiastic takes on Pekka Rinne. And Troy, I guess from what I've read about you is that, I'm hearing a lot of quotes like kind of, is in his head. He's gripping the microphone too tight. And
hey, I'm just glad people are talking about me. I mean, to get an analysis done about my interview skills from, what was it, Hockey Cards Daily? Whatever website you said.
Hockey Cards Media Daily.
Hockey really Cards Media Daily. Yeah, I am on the struggle bus. 419 sports guy called me out, and he's right. My questioning, I haven't asked a lot of questions. And I'm still having a panic attack about Saturday, when somehow we're supposed to go on stage and moderate some discussion. So I might just just fall down, sleep down, or slump down in my chair, and then kind of just roll off the stage and jump on.
Here's my prediction:
jump on the struggle bus and take off.
About an hour from our talk at the Toronto Sport Card Expo, you're going to go missing, and I'll find you a half hour later at the bar, like knee deep in a picture of Budweiser or something like that.
Or maybe I'll have to go to the bathroom. Go tell Daryl Suter I got to go to the bathroom.
Okay, so the struggle bus for the Monday edition of the Hockey Cards Gong Show has Jeremy Swayman, Alexander Holtz, Jonathan Huberdeau, and your very own Troy. Now it's time for our rookie deep dive, Troy. This is the 8th rookie deep dive we've done. Crazy, huh?
That's pretty nuts.
So far, we've covered Matty Beniers, Matt Boldy, Shane Wright, Juraj Slavkovsky, Owen Power, Shane Pinto. Last week was Kalen Addison. We had our closest Instagram poll by far this week, and narrowly defeating poor Kent Johnson was John-Jason Peterka or JJ Peterka or JJP.
JJP.
Troy, are you down with JJP?
I'm definitely down with JJP.
No, I know you know me.
I know.
Come on, man. I put that on a T for you.
Naughty by nature. I'm sorry. I failed.
Poor Ken Johnson. The guy finishes second. It's his 6th time. So and I know we've actually been mentioned by a couple of Columbus fans that are like, what do we have to do to get you to talk about this guy? And I'm just like, I don't know. Get your people to vote for him in our poll. So JJP or JJ Peterka or John-Jason Peterka, however you want to call him, is a 5'11", 192-pound German left winger for your Troy Buffalo Sabres. He was the 35th overall pick in the 2020 NHL entry draft by Buffalo. Prior to being drafted, JJP played in Germany for ECH München. Did you take German? I didn't. I took Spanish, so I don't know how to pronounce that.
No, I took Spanish. Closest I got is I had a friend or friend of a friend, but I got to know.
You bragging again?
Yeah, friend of a friend that played pro hockey over in Germany. So I got to know some of the teams. I watched some of his games, but I can't pronounce any of them.
I believe it was in the top German league. Anywho, he had 20 points, 9 goals, 11 assists in 30 games in 2020. Here's what scouts had to say about JJP coming into the NHL draft. Crafty, hard-nosed scorer, provides strong support on the forecheck, and at the end boards, possesses quickness, going up the ice, shoots the puck well, and demonstrates poise with the puck. JJP spent last season in Rochester in the AHL, had a pretty good year, Troy. In 70 games, had 28 goals, 40 assists for 68 points, just under a point per game. Of course, he made the Sabres team out of camp and has been playing on the second line with Dylan Cozens and Alex Tuck. That's not a bad line if you're a rookie to get on at all. Looks like he's getting a little bit of power play action too, having an assist the other night on a Rasmus Dahlin goal. Dahlin. Through 12 games, he has a respectable 7 points on 3 goals and 4 assists. I feel like my name pronunciation is awful today.
Well, I was going to joke we should have just a whole episode of us reading names and trying to get them right. Like there's TikTok or Instagram real users that like read off hard to pronounce stuff, and they get way more views than I would have ever imagined. So maybe we just need to do that.
In my defense, half the names I know how to pronounce. For whatever reason, I'm just doing them wrong. So I guess that's not in my defense. But yeah, I don't know what's going on. His 2021 Young Gun Raw is selling in the $15 US range. So if you went back around October 1st, prior to the beginning of the season, it was selling in the $6 to $7 US range, Troy. So it's definitely more than doubled since then. So JJP, what's your thoughts on him?
I mean, I don't know that much about him, even though he is my guy with the Buffalo Sabres, obviously. But from what I've seen just in that athletic and stuff, it's kind of what you read were the things that and he's doing pretty well this season, given what's his second. He played, 2 games last year? Yeah, 2 games last year. So having 7 points and 3 goals in that 7 points for the start of his first full season is pretty good for a rookie. And getting power play time is huge.
Buffalo has a pretty decent collection of young talent.
They have a crop of young talent.
All right, time for some hobby news. Real quick on the injury roundup front, the Anaheim Ducks' Jamie Drysdale is out 4 to 6 months with a torn labrum. Kind of stinks. He is a 2021 Young Guns Series 2, if I remember correctly. It seems like, I don't know if you felt this way, but not that there's a lot of big, young, exciting players on the Ducks, and none of them have been playing bad. But I kind of feel like it's been a little bit underwhelming so far. Like they're just kind of there's not the kind of mega hype that McTavish had this summer. He's doing fine. I don't recall the numbers off the top of my head. I know Zegras is doing fine too.
Yeah, Drysdale's been the one 8 games played, no points this year. So I wonder if that injury was more affecting him than we heard, and now it either tore or it was partially torn, and now it's surgery or what. But it seems like something was going on with him.
No fun for him, man. Moving on to Ovi, your guy.
Ovi.
He scored last night, so it would have been Saturday night, his 787th career goal, which is a lot. It was in a 3-2 loss to the Coyotes, and you're like, well, why does that matter? Well, Troy, he has now surpassed Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe, for the most goals with one team in a career. He is still 14 goals, though, behind Howe for the second most goals all time. So another kind of cool milestone for Ovi here. It also gives him 7 goals in the first 13 games of the year. So he's at a 44-goal pace so far, which is certainly where he needs to be to keep up with the chase for Gretzky's all-time goals record. I saw a picture of him yesterday. It wasn't necessarily meant to show Ovechkin, but the Capitals, I think last night, wore their like black kind of retro. What do they call it again? Is it reverse retro?
Reverse retros.
Uniforms. His hair is like almost like white at this point.
He's the silver fox, man. He ain't hiding it.
Yeah, he looks old, but playing good.
Yep.
So, or not slowing down, at least from what we can see. Another thing I want to mention real quick is the NHL Global Series continued this past weekend. So the Avalanche and Blue Jackets played in Finland on November 4th and 5th. In Game 1, the Avs beat the Blue Jackets 6-3. In Game 2, they beat them again 5-1. I want to bring this up because I love to see the NHL continue to promote the league outside the U.S. and in Canada. I think, Troy, it only helps to grow the game globally, and that will trickle down into the collecting world as well. Also, if you follow Upper Deck on social media, you would have seen that they were definitely there. They had a whole bunch of events and kiosks. So again, bravo, Upper Deck. I think, the more they continue to strengthen their partnership with the NHL, the better it is for the hobby.
Yeah, it's really cool, even though I secretly think the players hate this.
I'm sure.
I except the ones that are from Finland. They love it, probably get to play in front of their family and home crowd. But I am glad to see the global reach. You've seen the NFL do it. NHL's trying to do it. I do think it's weird that they just sparkle them in during the year. That seems, I don't know a better way to do it.
I like it. I think it's a very, very good thing. I know, from what I know of professional athletes, they are creatures of habit. So I'm sure they can't stand it. And there's the whole time change thing. But when you talk about the betterment of the game, especially over the long run, it's a very, very good thing. If you look at the Global Series, you'll notice that right now, and it probably makes sense, is they're focusing on areas, particularly in Europe, that are already hockey hotbeds. I think where I'm going to really get excited is when we start to see games in Mexico or somewhere, Spain, or somewhere that isn't, or London, right? Traditionally a hockey hotbed, because that will signify, I think, that the game could be opening up into new places where it's not heavily followed already. All good stuff. Last thing I want to mention in hobby news is make sure you send us your local card show shoutouts every Thursday episode. So next, or in a couple days, we will be shouting them out. If you do, please send us any pertinent information, hours, dates, addresses, tables, how much hockey they're going to have, if there's a website, etc. We want to do our small part to help promote local card shows and grow the hockey hobby that way. Okay, Troy, so you and I have been talking about hockey wax for a while and how to bring it up on the show, I guess, is the best way to put it. It's something I know we're both interested in. And to me, it's not really traded as heavily as with other sports, so it's hard to find a lot of data. And so with Series 1 coming out and the flagship products being so important to the hockey hobby, I thought there was an opportunity to consider the question, if you're going to go out in the next week and buy some Series 1, does it make sense to maybe take 1, 2, or more of these sealed boxes and throw it up in the attic as an investment? Stash it away, sit on it for a little while. So I was hoping we could kind of try to work through that premise a little bit here. And I did some digging and data. First of all, I think I know the answer to this, but do you find it in your nature to be able to buy a hobby box and not open it?
Nope. I buy a box, I want to open it. Like, even if I tried to think I was going to put it away, I would eventually rip it open within 2 days. I can't
It's like myself. The most tempting thing ever. It's just, for the record, and you know this because I had started this idea where I was buying every few weeks, like just a sealed pack of 2015 Series 1 as an investment. I don't know what they go for now, but I was buying them at like $20-$25 a pack. And I got to the point where I had like 8 of them sitting in my bookshelf in my office. And they would just they would taunt me, Troy.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's what Carey Price is on. He'd be like, open me. He's in here. Connor wants you. He needs to be in a penny sleeve, right? And I honestly, for like 3-4 months.
Yeah, you held them for a long time.
But then, of course, I cracked and opened them. And did I get anything? No. So obviously, big waste of money there. But I know that especially people in basketball or football will buy boxes and store them, and you can do very, very well. So I wanted to examine again that premise. I think first thing I'll say is that when it comes to the value of sealed hobby boxes, it's always going to depend on who the rookies end up being and what type of career they have. If you have a box and there could be a superstar young gun in there, logic says you'll do pretty well. If it's a average or below average rookie class, you're not going to do so well. That's kind of common sense. So I think there's 2 ways to look at this. The first is, as the investor, it's also hard not to consider the buyer's perspective too, and what makes sense. And I think that this is where hobby boxes, outside of just the joy of opening packs, which I think is for most people is a lot of fun, but typically is not great from an ROI perspective, because here's a way to think of it, right? If there's 50 young guns in a series, and you get an average of 1 in every 4 packs, it means there's 6 young guns in every hobby box. So let's think now towards Series 1, which will be out in a few days. If you're chasing any one young gun, let's say you're a big Matty Beniers guy, that means, Troy, on average, you would need to open 8.33 hobby boxes to get that Matty Beniers card. So assuming these go for around $100 a box, if you love Matty Beniers and it's important to you to open a pack yourself, you need to be prepared to spend about $800 on that card. I'm guessing a week from today on eBay, it ain't going to be going for $800. Maybe 60, 65, 50, 40. somewhere in that, maybe 75 tops. So roughly you could buy a dozen or more for what it would cost for you to open one yourself. So again, it's from a buying perspective, it's always best to buy singles on the secondary market, but it also means that it could be a good investment to keep one sealed and stashed away. Because if a guy like Matty Beniers or Matt Boldy ends up becoming a superstar 3-4 years from now, as we'll see in a minute, that box can go up big. And I think the reason is the chase is real, the allure is real. For whatever reason, we're all spellbound by this sort of fantasy of, I'm going to take this $100 box and get a $500 card. It's like getting pull tabs or gambling. Very, very similar to that. I don't know what the psychology of ripping wax is, but we're all suckers for it.
Well, yeah, even like on our Instagram post that you'll put out, let's like take today's where it's Jason Robertson. I read those and my first thought is, man, why I want to rip one of those packs and get the $4,000 or $3,000 Future Watch Auto Black that we found or that was mentioned.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I mean, that's the first thing that goes through my head when I see any of those top value posts. Is thinking about, it's like how you imagine you won the Powerball or you win the lottery. It's one of those just nice to think about. Maybe it'll probably never happen, but it's cool to think about.
We all love the I'm going to spend $10 and end up with $1,000. Mm-hmm. That's sort of the ultimate fantasy when it comes to collecting or in any playing the lottery or going to the casino, any sort of rags to riches type daydreaming, I guess, call it. Okay, but let's circle back to, is it smart to stash this as an investment? So I actually have a lot of data. I'm going to try to go through it quickly, but I think it is important to highlight. And there's a couple of interesting things we'll point out. And just starting at 2021 and going back all the way to McDavid, essentially. So if you look at like 2021 Series 1, you can get it right now for about $82. So it's down about 20% right now from when it came out. So the big guys here would be Caufield and Zegras. So you have Caufield going for over $100 right now. But again, it's about 1 in every 8.5 boxes that you're going to find a Caufield Young Gun. Series 2 is a little bit more. It's at 91, so down about 10% from where it came out. And I'm using like roughly $100, $105. That's typically what we're able to buy these for if you're a smart shopper. Series 2 has Sider, Raymond, McTavish, Byfield, Newhook, etc. Extended's about $85. Says Jarvis, JJP, we talked about today, and Alex Turcotte. So anything from 2021, Troy, is down probably 10-20% in that range right now. If you go back to 2020 and look at Series 1, so that has Laffy, Ottinger, Bowen Byram, Gabe Filardi now. It's kind of crazy that Gabe Filardi's in that discussion. Yeah. And Josh Norris, that's about $115 on eBay currently. Probably close to break even, maybe slightly ahead. You look at Series 2, where you have Kaprizov, Stützle, Cozens in there, and that's $135. So there you're probably up 10%, right? Just based on the strength of those rookies. Extended, which was last year was the first year of Extended, was like $45. That's an ouch. Yeah. What do I read into this so far? It doesn't look like in the first couple of year and a half, at least, you're going to get a big return. If you want to store some wax, especially flagship, it's probably a multi-year project that you're working on to at least try to get an investment. And then I would probably stay away from Extended. Maybe that's unfair, but because Extended only has had 2 releases. But from what we know now, that probably would be the best idea. Now going back to 2019. So Series 1 had Jack Hughes, Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes, only about $105. That's not great. Series 2, though, where you have notably Suzuki and Makar, is $330. So here's where we start to see if there's a superstar caliber player in the series, you can do well. So if you had gotten 2019 Series 2 in the 100, 105, 110 range, and those are sitting in your attic right now, you're doing pretty good. Well, is that just a Cale Makar anomaly? So let's keep going back. This is where in a weird way, I think this was the most interesting to me, Troy, looking at 2018, where Series 1, which you have Elias Pettersson, now Rasmus Dahlin, which who would have said that 6 months ago, and Jordan Kyrou, that's going for about $275 right now. To me, nothing against those guys, but there's no like super sexy rookie in that one. And at $275, well, you're 3 years into your investment, of course. That's a pretty long time, hobby-wise, but still pretty decent return. Even Series 2, which is a little bit has Svechnikov, Brady Tkachuk, and Carter Hart is going in the 175, maybe 185 range US dollars. Decent there. Just to be efficient, I skipped 2017 and wanted to cover 2016 and 2015 for probably obvious reasons. So if you look at 2016 Series 1, which of course has Austin Matthews and then maybe Sebastian Aho as much less desirable, but still good. That's going right now, Troy, for about $750 US. Goes back to, it's hard to avoid the buying side of this too. So it's like, man, if you're going to buy a box thinking for $750, thinking I'm going to pull Matthews.
You can't think like that. You cannot. Listeners, if you're thinking about buying the box just because you think you can pull the one card you want, that's tough.
Yeah. You'd almost need to get really lucky and get one-on-one box or completely at the lottery and find a high gloss or exclusives or something like that. So that's a lot of money. Even Series 2, Troy, is $350 US dollars, right? If you have that, sorry, picked the wrong one.
Yeah.
But there you have Patrick Laine, Matthew Barzal, Mitch Marner. Still $350, which isn't bad, right? Because I'm assuming you could have bought that around $100, or I don't even know what it was in 2016, maybe less. But that's like coming on 6 years to get to 3x. I don't know if that's how worth it that is to people. Going back to the big dog now, 2015 Series 1. If you want to chase McDavid in a hobby box, you're going to pay over $1,200 US dollars for it. So if you have a case of these in your garage rafters, you probably shouldn't be in your garage, first of all, but you've done pretty well. Going back to, though, you can pick up a raw McDavid Young Gun all day long for less than $1,000. So you're trading a worse than 1 in 8 chance for $1,200 for a sure thing. I saw some really ones that look like in pretty good shape for like $950 this morning when I looked. So I don't know. What do you make of this?
I don't know. I'm not the biggest wax investor. I like holding the stuff, or I like ripping the stuff, I should say. The pricing, actually, when you started at the most recent and kind of went through the chronology, it made sense. But again, it doesn't seem, it's good from the perspective of if you bought it for cheap and you held it and then sell it. But obviously, like you said, the buying perspective was just boggles my mind. Why would you ever buy one of these hoping to get the one card or you're looking for? Just go get that card.
And definitely not knocking people that do, because we buy a lot of wax too. So we're questioning ourselves here. I don't know how to feel about it. And part of me thinks, boy, if I'm looking to invest, I can get a return a lot faster than waiting 3 years. But then you look at any sort of traditional way to look at investing money. If you can triple your money in 3 years, that's a pretty good investment by any standard, right? I don't know. Maybe you all can reach out to us and message us. And if anybody does have sealed wax that you've invested in, and kind of let us know how it's gone. But I just thought one way or the other, it'd be good to start to broach the subject like we did with breaking a few weeks ago, because it is something we haven't talked about a lot. And so we'll keep learning and discovering along the way. Okay, I want to get into new releases. Not much from like anything else coming out other than just the excitement, which I'm feeling for Series 1. I'm pretty pumped about it. It comes out, I believe, on the 9th. So this Wednesday, right when we drop our next episode, should be Series 1 release day. Do you have any predictions for it? Well, number one, are you excited? How pumped are you for Series 1?
Oh, I'm excited. I definitely want to buy some. I'm debating. I mean, I will probably pick some up at the expo. Just
for the redemption thing.
Yeah, don't start me on the redemption thing. I already got riled up enough about that.
Troy's bitter about the redemption thing, but it's a small complaint. So, and in fairness, right, we're just experiencing it for the first time. Yeah. So you may love it. We have to keep an open mind on that. I'm pretty excited too, and I don't know if it's because of the point that I'm going to bring up in a second, or if well, let me put it to you this way. How excited are you for this crop of young guns? Like,
I'm excited from the standpoint that there's wild players and there's other players that have, like I said last show, where I look at the Minnesota connection and players that I'm familiar with. So I really like it from that standpoint.
Is there a superstar like a Cale Makar, Austin Matthews, even like Nathan McKinnon? I feel like there isn't.
I don't see anyone jumping out at me. Obviously, I'd like to say one of the wild guys, but obviously, in reality, probably not.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's a good solid B class, if that makes sense, right? Not in I don't know if is there a Caufield or Zegras that you even see in Series 1? Well, Beniers maybe, if anybody, right?
Yep.
Just Boldy isn't that dynamic, right? He doesn't have sort of that panache, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Beniers is your best bet.
The other thing that honestly has me pumped is I'm really intrigued on the inserts and chases this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even necessarily predicting that they're going to be all sorts of amazing. I think a couple could be, or they could flop, but it seems a lot different than what we had last year. And so I think it'll be fascinating to see how that shakes out. The other reason I was trying to think, like, why am I so jacked up for this is I went and actually went through our show notes and looked back at, usually we're trying to look ahead in new releases. So I spent some time looking backwards and just to go through the chronology with you. So the last really release of significance, sorry, CHL or various retail products, was Artifacts came out around September 28th. So if you do math, Troy, which I know you're good at, when, as we expect, a series 1 to come out on the 9th, that's like 6 weeks in between. And then before that was MVP on September 8th, which MVP has a purpose. I don't mind MVP, but it's not something I think that gets either of us really excited.
I'll think about it from a breaking perspective. After maybe the first couple days of it being new, I don't think I've seen MVP being broken at all.
It's a great retail product.
Yep.
And it has a purpose, and so I'm not anti-MVP, not my thing. But then so that was September 8th. Then you go before that to August 30th was Clear Cut, which again, I like Clear Cut, but it's a 1-card box. Very high risk, high reward, as we know personally. Long story short here, it's been a really long time, it feels like, with the exception of Artifacts, since there's been, that's like one product in the past 2.5, 3 months almost, where you get, I don't know what to call it, a bunch of cards in a box to open, or, good chases. And I especially it made me empathize for breakers quite a bit. We don't break, so we don't have firsthand knowledge. I know a lot of you guys that listen do. I imagine it's been a little tough sledding to keep people interested. And as I was thinking about that, and, while we don't break, we observe a lot of breaks. There's still a lot of Series 2 people are ripping because they're having to fall back on that, waiting for Upper Deck to put more product out. So I imagine for them, Series 1 can't come out fast enough, right? And just get some new blood, new names in packs. The other thing that I think we need to consider, and I've been thinking quite a bit about, Troy, is so this sort of 6-week hiatus in between major releases doesn't do much to get Upper Deck caught up.
Nope.
And you have to ask the question, again, I'm not trying to dog the CHL product, but why would you release CHL as opposed to Platinum or something? And who knows? There could be very good reason. It could be what printer's at. Maybe Upper Deck has an agreement with the CHL where they have to release the product. That could be it too, but I don't know, man.
Without knowing all the behind-the-scenes stuff, it did seem like an odd choice. I just keep going in my head looking at what is still needing to be released, still what's in the backlog, what's coming up. They're not catching up at the rate that I thought we would see it catch up, which leads me then to ask the next question. I know they canceled some stuff in the past, but is there other announcements coming up that they're going to cancel? Or are they just going to keep going and we might just be in this product a year or two behind for the next year or two, maybe? It seems like it's the rate we're going, or are they stockpiling? But they, like we said, we don't think they're going to release 3 products in 2 weeks or 4 products in a span of a month. I think they have to be strategic and smart about the release schedule.
It's a great question. I have no idea. I'm sure the greatest expense, of course, is production and the raw materials. Mm-hmm. But you'd have to imagine that all the work that gets done to designing these sets and getting them locked and loaded to cancel it, that's a hit financially.
Yeah, I hope they don't cancel
for them too. Yeah, I don't know. It's again, it continues to be fascinating to watch. It does suck. I'll admit, the length of time it's been between Artifacts and now. It feels like it's maybe we just have really short attention spans, but it feels like it's been too, forever. That's part of the hobby. So I'm just super pumped for Series 1 just to see sort of what the reaction is going to be as far as values go for the crop of young guns. I kind of feel like the top one will be in the $50 range out of the gate. I don't know if any of these guys have done enough this year to make people think that there's somebody on Cider or Caufield or Zegras or Kaprizov's level.
Yeah, but besides Beniers, Kent Johnson's in it, right? I mean, Kent Johnson's not blowing up the league by any means, but I could try to remember if he was in it. He isn't seriously.
No, there's a lot of solid guys. Like you can go through you got Owen Power who's played pretty well. You got Johnson, Boldy, Bernier. You got Jack Quinn. So there's definitely enough names. I would like instinctually I think Benier's, but then he'll go 5 games without a point.
Yeah.
Which for his tenure, I don't think is super shocking, but it doesn't create the crazy hype that a Cole Caufield comes up with. And I love Matt Boldy, and I'm glad he's on the Wild, but is he an exciting hockey player to you?
That wraparound on Shesterkin was pretty exciting.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being too critical. Nonetheless, it's been a long time. I really, really hope that they're able to follow up Series 1 and not be another 6 weeks. They can't. They can't release a product every 6 weeks and get back on track. Right. And I also know that the clamoring for the Cup is going to give it 2 weeks from now is going to be bonkers, because I think myself and most others have been pretty understanding about not a lot of news on the Cup, given that the focus is probably getting Series 1 out the door. That's what I got for new releases. Okay, personal pickups is pathetic, but next Monday should be really good, right? Yeah, and it's intentionally pathetic.
Yeah, intentionally pathetic. We're both war chesting for Toronto, writing down my list, making sure I have my comps all in order.
All right. And I think we're going to talk about on Wednesday, one of the things I want to do is go through with each of us sort of our own like personal game plan and what we're looking for, and being giant idiots and telegraphing for everyone what we want to buy. But nobody's accused us of being smart to this point. So
Danny Heatley, Phil Kessel, rookie cards. That's what I'm looking for.
I just want the marshmallow thrower, man. Yep. Give me all Ryan Suter all day. Okay, well, that is our show for Monday's edition of the Hockey Cards Gongshow Podcast. If you like the episode and you have forgiven all of our horrible name pronunciations, we will do better on that. We would love for you to leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you listen to us on. And if you love the show, which how could you not? Troy's on it. And would like to support us and want to chat with us on the Hockey Cards Gong Show Discord server and contribute in many ways to our show and have a whole lot of fun, we would love for you to consider a $5 a month donation via Patreon and join the out of 99 support level tier. You can look us up on the Patreon website by searching for Hockey Cards Gong Show. Also, the link to Patreon is in our show description or within our Instagram profile on our link tree. If you're not following us on social media already, you're crazy. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Troy, you may not have been aware, but the Hockey Cards Gong Show podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures, LLC. Hope you all have a great week, and we will talk to you on Thursday.